G'day and welcome to Goat Fantasy. It's the Goat Fantasy Watchlist edition. Nice to have your company on the podcast, brought to you by Checkmyrate.au. Visit the website, it's free to use. Take control of your financial future as the interest rates go up. Perfect time to get onto Checkmyrate.au. Get in touch with Brandon and the team. I'm sure we can save you some money on your home loan. Just mention Goat Fantasy. All right. We've been teasing this for a couple of weeks, and we are finally here. So the GOAT Fantasy Watch List will be counting down from 50 to 1 of the players that we are watching throughout the preseason. I've already had to make a change before recording because there is always something going on. There's always a player bobbing up from somewhere and becoming more relevant as we get closer to the season. So understand that this is a moving feast, this list, but as it stands, we've narrowed down our top 50, and of course, we invite your feedback. We want to interact with you, so let us know your thoughts on all these players that we're watching so far through the preseason. So what we'll do is we'll roll it out over a few different episodes, just because otherwise it would go, I think, probably out of hand how long it is. But today we'll start with 50 to 31, and then we'll go 16 to 30, and then the top 15. So bear with me, lots of names here, and we'll scoot through fairly quickly. But coming in at number 50 on the GOAT Fantasy inaugural watch list for 2026. Number 50, it's Collingwood's Dan Houston. Now, it's hard to pump him up too much, and it's hard to put him too high up the list, because they have the early bye, and of course, such a disappointing season for Dan Houston last year with that hip concern. But we know what he can do. He's a 95 defender when he's the man in the back 50 like he was at Port Adelaide. And there is this possibility, this sneaking sense that perhaps with Josh Dacos set to spend more time in the midfield this season, does that free up a bit more market share for Dan Houston in the back line, and perhaps the Pies, who invested so much in him, will start to put the ball in his hands a little bit more, show a little bit more faith in Dan Houston. So very cheap across all salary cap formats, and you're going to get him pretty low down that draft order as well after such a poor season last year. May well have a fair bit of upside. So we're keeping a close eye on Dan Houston at number 50. Now, number 49, another mature body. It is GWS ruckman Kieran Briggs, again coming off a poor season. He got that concussion in opening round last year, carrying little niggles throughout the season after he was hyped up as coming back fitter than ever, and perhaps it was going to be a really big year for him. That didn't eventuate, and now he comes in very underpriced. So someone we can look into across all formats. Again, the early buy is an issue, but if you're willing to ride that out and you want to save a bit of money in your ruck department, given all of the uncertainty about how the rules may affect scoring, he is a low-budget way to enter the market for a ruckman. You're probably not going to lose too much ground. You might even make a few bucks, and then you can make a decision on what the best path forward is, with Kieran Briggs sort of setting a base for you. So Briggs at 49. At 48, Melbourne defender / midfielder Trent Rivers. He has teased us in midfield roles before, but this one is it's multifaceted. The fact that he comes in at 48, and the reason that we're looking at Trent Rivers. No early buy, reasonably priced, and then there's extra points up for grabs in defence with no Stephen May, Jake Bowie injured. Could he take kick-ins? Could he get a bit more rebounding market share alongside Christian Salem? Or the other option, which I think is possibly more likely, is increase midfield minutes. And does that equal points for Trent Rivers? He's never knocked it out of the park for us. He's shown glimpses. But is this the season, with no Viney, no Petrarca, no Oliver, that Rivers can make an impact in the midfield under Stephen King? And yeah, if he plays full-time midfield and scores in that 90 to 95 range, then he will be value across the formats. Coming in at 47 is a relatively new addition to this list, and certainly a pretty unknown player in the grand scheme of things, but it's Jack Carroll at St Kilda. Has been a midfielder, played on the wing at times in his time at Carlton. but a addition to the list via the SPP last season for St Kilda, and has been training off halfback. So this is a very much an unknown for us, but we'll get to see him across trial games, practice games, community series to see if he's in the best 23, if he's got a decent role, all that stuff. But he's, essentially almost basement price. He's rookie priced in salary cap formats, which means we're interested if he's got a half-back role to start the season. 46, West Coast draftee Josh Lindsay. So, beautiful left-foot kick. I think, the consensus out of the club is that he's already one of the best kicks in the entire squad at West Coast. And in a team that desperately needs rebounding defending, you can take it from me as a West Coast fan. We have not had a superstar who can cut other teams apart with their foot skills for quite some time. Sort of the back end of Shannon Hearn's career, there was a lot of long kicks out of defence. Lindsay is a different type of player. He can slice and dice. Out of the Geelong Falcons, West Coast traded up to get him. Only flag at the moment is, he is still an 18-year-old. Still got a first-year draftee's body. And can he do what needs to be done defensively to complement those offensive threats? So, not guaranteed that he'll start the year in the team, and that would be the only thing that would be stopping us from picking him from the start, but he may well end up being a great downgrade target as the year goes on. Okay, 46, Josh Lindsay. 45 is the Eagles SPP Brigade. So, Devin Robinson, Finn McRae, and Harry Schonberg. I've just put them all together as a trio because we just need to watch and see what the Eagles are going to do with these depth midfield pieces. The feeling from the outside is that Devin Robinson is the most advanced of that trio. He also has forward status for us and comes in basically at a basement price in salary cap format. So could be an ideal F6 if he's playing, and even F7 if you want to get some extra points on field in your forward line. So I think Dev Robertson's the one we're looking at, but I've just thrown in Schonberg and Finn McRae into that trio. 44, Essendon, Dyson Sharp. He doesn't need to be too high up this list because we're pretty certain that he's going to play from round one. Comes in with a mature body, highly rated South Australian, and we expect him to get midfield minutes right from the start. So I don't think we need to overthink it, but he's on the watch list because we need to see what it looks like throughout the trial games, but I think he's going to be in everyone's team and probably on the starting field. Dyson Sharp at Essendon. Coming in at 44. There's a nice Essendon theme here at 43. Toby Blackiston. So he is listed as a defender across the formats, and he will start the season as the number one ruckman. They like his versatility, moves well. He's not going to win a lot of hit-outs, but he's going to be around the ball, and being in the ruck generally guarantees you at least a bit of a floor. Could be 50 or 60. If he has a good day, lays 10 tackles, he might pop an 80 or a 90. So Toby Blackiston, worth considering in our teams as one of our defensive rookies. Slightly more cost-wise than some of the other names, but perhaps a little safer. 42, Jacob Farrow, young West Australian taken in the first round by Essendon. A lot of excitement about his footy nous. It's just about finding his position, whether it's half-back, wing, half forward. He's going to be floating around a utility, but they like the ball in his hands. So I like Jacob Farrow for a starting berth in round one, which gives us another option as a rookie defender. 41, Sam Cumming from Richmond, another South Australian, another guy who really impressed in his draft year. And I've been down to training at Punt Road. I've seen it firsthand, selected as essentially a starting midfielder across their match sim. So that puts him in at least the top sort of 6 to 8 centre square options. There's been an injury to Dion Prestio's at his hamstring. I think Cumming is really firming for a spot in round one, and it's going to be as part of that midfield rotation. So to me, that screams a starting pick opportunity. So 41, Sam Cumming from Richmond. Staying with the Tigers, in at 40 is Sam Grill. So playing on the wing for the Tigers in their match sim. Best suited as a halfback flanker. That's his primary position. But they've got Banks, they've got Short, they've got Tom Brown. So trying to juggle all those pieces and make it all work together is the big question for the Tigers. But again, he's made a great impression throughout the pre-season. Let's see how these trial games go. Let's see if he can slot in. But he would be a very handy rookie-priced mid/back across the salary cap formats. Coming in at 39, again, a guy we think is going to be in our starting team. Zeke Hewland, built for fantasy football. He's a +6 guy. Great skills, great tank. Didn't play a huge amount of footy last year because of stress fractures in his back, but he is primed to step into this Gold Coast team and make an impact right from the start. The younger brother of Bodie has come through that academy. They're very excited about what Zeke the Freak can produce, so expect him to see him in all of our teams to start the season with that handy back and centre eligibility. All right, 38 in the GOAT Fantasy Watchlist, Christian Salem. So a lot of talk about this Demons backline, where the points are going to come. We've already discussed Trent Rivers. Christian Salem is another one. Has missed a couple of weeks of training with a apparent hamstring concern. It's a leg concern. But he's back in full training. So Salem, at the right time of the year, back and ready to go. There is a match sim that we're keeping an eye on at Melbourne to see whether he plays and what he does, and that's going to answer some questions for us about the Demons. But of course, there's lots of kick-ins up for grabs. If that adds another 10 points, 12 points to his average, then he becomes a really valuable premium defender. So whether it's in salary cap or draft, a potential boost for Christian Salem could be coming this season. In at 37, Miles Bergman from the Port Adelaide Football Club has started out as one of the hottest names in fantasy throughout the pre-season because of that supposed role through the midfield. And we don't know if he's going to get all of his time in there. There's been whispers of forward. Of course, he's made his name as a stopper in defence who's got good skills and can be used as a rebounder. Part of Miles Bergman's problem is that he's a Swiss Army knife. He can fill any hole, so reliable. So there were times last season where he would start in the midfield and then get shifted to defence and that scoring would dry up. So no bye, good run to start the season. He could well start out hot if he gets that midfield role with Horn Francis playing in the forward line and Rosie down back. But there is some risk attached. But I think we'll probably look back at the first few weeks and think it was a good decision or that we wish we had him in our team. So Miles Bergman in at 37. All right, 36. It's Todd Marshall. We're staying with Port Adelaide and, not someone I'd ever thought that we'd be discussing in a fantasy context. But after a season-ending long-term injury last year, I believe it was an Achilles for Todd Marshall, he is very cheap. He's available as a forward and he's playing in defence for the Power. So the possibility of those free points, those +6s down back, has us interested. All we can do is just watch the role and see where he fits into that Port Adelaide back six. And we'll wait and see. At 35, another Gold Coast man, Will Powell. So discussed by Hugh Greenwood. He sort of broke the news with Warney on DT Talk about Will Powell playing through the midfield for the Gold Coast Suns. Let's see whether that's just a pre-season thing or whether it's an in-season as well. I mean, they have such a deep midfield stacked when you think about Anderson Rao and then Tuke Miller, who's been thrown around. He could easily be on this list. We've seen him half forward, half back. We've seen him upskilling in other positions. Bailey Humphrey, Alex Davies. There are so many options through that midfield, but Will Powell so far has been shooting the lights out as a midfielder. So let's keep an eye on what he does. Could well be underpriced for what he can produce, particularly from a draft perspective, because if they put him back to the halfback flank, he's going to score well anyway. So Will Powell at number 35. Number 34, he's in pretty much everyone's team. It's Nick Newman from Carlton. So a knee injury put him out for the entirety of last season. And then made really good strides. Almost could have got back for the end of the year. And then he did a hamstring at training in January. So that's just halted his progress a little bit. But he's returning to full training and we get a look at him over this pre-season period to see if he remains the number one trusted distributor for the Blues. We know Zach Williams has gone back into defence, but different type of players. Zach Williams run and carry. Nick Newman's more of your +6 guy. So I think you'll find, despite the early buy, he'll probably be in most of our teams. Of course, we get a look at him during opening round. All right, number 33 is Caleb Sarong. Feels like he's underpriced. A lot of these premium midfielders are going to sit in our watch list because we just aren't quite sure who is the best option. And will there be rule changes, stoppages that will affect Sarong's scoring? Will Fremantle and the way that they play affect the way that he scores? He's an All-Australian. He's a class player. And to get some more perspective on Caleb Sarong, we've brought in an expert on the matter. It is Kyle Holmes.
Hey Goat, Holmesy here, chatting about Caleb Sarong. Very interesting player, gun in real life. 3 back-to-back All-Australian years in a row. Been a 95 averaging player now for the better part of 18 months since Freo have changed up this game style. I do worry with the reduction in stoppages, with the AFL seemingly trying to speed the game up and him being such a heavy relier on stoppage points, that I think he probably falls in that type of player at the moment where he's better in real life than in fantasy. So I'm not sure that 108 or that 104 that he's done in the past when Freo were playing that more chip game styles realistic for Sarong. I can see a little bit of upside if the tags drop away or Freo, dominate some more games. But think he's probably a 93 to 97 type player, which is not enough for us in our starting squads.
All right, thank you, Holmesy. Catch him on the pod. Coming in at 32 on the GOAT Fantasy Watchlist, it's Finn Callaghan from the GWS Giants. Just feels like it could be his year. He could be a breakout candidate to take himself from a star player to a superstar. The only thing about Finn, and I own him in a dynasty league, I had him in another draft league last year, is that he is the kind of player that does something amazing but only gets 2 points for it, or only gets 3 points. Bursts through a pack, palms off guys, but then it's just +2, +3. So sometimes he can be better in real life than in fantasy scoring, but if he can add a tackle here or there, an extra couple of marks, a goal a game, then he starts to become one of the best midfielders in the competition. So we've got an eye on Finn Callaghan. And to round out today, the top 50, from 50 to 31, I've got St Kilda superstar, Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller. So the reason that we've got him in here, and at a reasonably high number, is because let's watch him in opening round. Is he going to smash out a 150? Has he gone to another level? Is there a world where we just can't afford to not pick him because we won't be able to get him into our team? It's scary to think that, he's priced so high across the different formats, but he could get even more expensive, and then you're going to have to wait a long time to get him in. So the buy round is scary, but best 18 scoring, who knows? We might be able to cover him. And having Nasiah in your team, the captaincy option, the flex, and the enjoyment of watching him play, I think that is worth considering. All right, that is the first edition of the GOAT Fantasy Watchlist. Thanks for being a part of it. More updates to come. See you soon on GOAT Fantasy.